In a small village in Burkina Faso, a television screen glows at night inside a modest roadside cafe. Cold drinks are stored in a humming refrigerator. Children sit under electric light, finishing their homework long after sunset. For decades, scenes like this were rare across much of rural Burkina Faso. In many communities, darkness arrived with the setting sun, and economic activity simply stopped. For years, extending the national grid to every remote village proved too slow and too costly. Vast distances, scattered populations, and limited financial resources created a gap between urban centers and rural communities. While cities expanded and modernized, countless villages waited. Now, a different approach is reshaping that reality. Through decentralized solar mini power plants known as mini centrale solaire, deployed by the Rural Electrification Agency, ABER, electricity is being delivered directly to villages rather than waiting for the traditional grid to reach them. These systems rely primarily on solar energy, supported by battery storage, and are designed to operate independently or alongside the national network. This is not only a story about power lines and solar panels, it is about practical policy, energy independence, and a long-term vision for sustainable development in a country blessed with abundant sunlight. Burkina Faso is turning a natural advantage into a strategy that may redefine how rural Africa powers its future. For decades, electricity in Burkina Faso followed a familiar pattern seen across much of Africa. Power plants were built near major cities, transmission lines stretched outward, and rural communities were expected to wait their turn. In theory, the national grid would eventually reach everyone. In practice, geography and cost stood in the way. Burkina Faso is a vast country with many villages separated by long distances and rough terrain. Extending high-voltage lines across hundreds of miles to serve small populations is extremely expensive. Each kilometer of transmission infrastructure requires heavy investment, technical expertise, and long-term maintenance. For a government with limited financial resources, prioritizing dense urban areas often seemed unavoidable. As a result, electrification rates have remained uneven. In urban centers, access to electricity has expanded steadily. In rural areas, however, access has historically remained in the single digits or low double digits. Many families relied on kerosene lamps, small diesel generators, or simply lived without power after sunset. Businesses closed early. Farmers could not easily process or store their products. Health clinics struggled to refrigerate vaccines reliably. There is also the issue of energy dependence. Burkina Faso has historically relied on imported fuel and, at times, imported electricity from neighboring countries. That reliance exposes the country to price volatility and regional supply disruptions. When fuel costs rise or supply chains tighten, the effects are felt immediately. For an older generation, this reality is not abstract. It means decades of development slowed by something as basic as a lack of reliable power. The question has never been whether electricity matters. The real question has been how to deliver it efficiently, affordably, and in a way that truly reaches the villages that need it most. If the traditional grid struggles to reach every remote village, the mini centrale solaire takes a different path. Instead of stretching power lines across vast territory, it brings generation directly to the community. At its core, this model is simple: capture the sun, convert the energy, store it, and distribute it locally. A typical mini solar plant installed under rural electrification programs in Burkina Faso may include hundreds of photovoltaic panels. In one recent example, About 242 solar panels were installed to produce a combined capacity of roughly 220 kilowatts. That may sound modest compared to large national power stations, but for a rural cluster of villages, it is transformative. The system does not rely on sunlight alone. Energy captured during the day is converted through inverters and stored in industrial-grade batteries. These batteries can supply electricity for many hours, and in some cases up to 24 hours, even if there is a temporary interruption or cloudy weather. This storage component is critical. It ensures that homes remain lit at night, and small businesses can operate with confidence. Another important feature is durability. These installations are typically designed to operate for at least 25 years. With proper maintenance, the equipment is enclosed, protected, and built for harsh climatic conditions. In a country blessed with strong sunlight throughout much of the year, solar generation is not an experiment. It is a practical use of a natural resource that is abundant and free. What makes this model powerful is its decentralization. Each village or cluster becomes less dependent on distant infrastructure. Electricity is produced close to where it is consumed. Losses in long transmission lines are reduced. Most importantly, development no longer has to wait for a national grid to expand mile by mile. The impact of decentralized solar power becomes most visible not in technical reports, but in daily life. In villages connected to a mini centrale solaire, change begins quietly. A light turns on at night. A refrigerator starts running. A water pump begins to operate without the noise of a diesel engine. For families, the difference is immediate. Children are able to study after sunset under stable electric lighting instead of dim kerosene lamps. That alone can influence educational outcomes over time. Parents feel safer walking along illuminated streets where solar-powered streetlights have been installed. In some programs, more than 800 solar streetlights have been deployed, improving visibility and community security. Small businesses benefit just as quickly. A cafe owner can sell cold drinks throughout the day. A tailor can use electric sewing machines. A welder can operate tools that were once impossible to run without a costly generator. Farmers gain the ability to store perishable goods for longer periods, reducing losses and improving income stability. Healthcare services also improve. Clinics equipped with reliable electricity can refrigerate vaccines and operate basic medical devices. Solar-powered boreholes provide access to clean water without depending on fuel deliveries. In several communities, multiple solar-powered water systems have been installed alongside the mini power plants, linking energy access directly to public health. Perhaps most important is the psychological shift. When electricity arrives, it sends a signal that the village is no longer forgotten. It reduces the gap between rural and urban life. Instead of watching development from a distance, communities begin to participate in it. Over time, that participation can strengthen local economies, reduce migration pressures, and create a sense of dignity rooted in self-reliance rather than dependence. No energy strategy moves forward without political direction. In Burkina Faso, the push toward decentralized solar electrification has unfolded within a broader national effort to strengthen energy independence and assert greater control over critical infrastructure. Under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, energy has increasingly been framed not only as a technical issue, but as a matter of sovereignty and long-term stability. The logic is straightforward. A country that depends heavily on imported fuel or external electricity supply remains vulnerable to price shocks and regional instability. By investing in domestic solar generation, both at the national scale and at the village level, Burkina Faso reduces that exposure. Large solar plants contribute to overall capacity, while mini centrale solaire systems ensure that rural populations are not left behind. What distinguishes this approach is its practical character. Rather than waiting for a single massive transformation of the national grid, the strategy combines centralized and decentralized solutions. The state sets direction, but agencies such as ABER serve as the operational arm, traveling to remote communities, overseeing installation, and coordinating local engagement. Electricity is treated as a foundation for development, not a luxury to be delivered at the end of a long bureaucratic process. For many supporters, this reflects a shift in priorities. The message is clear: development must reach the villages directly. Whether one views the broader political context with caution or optimism, the emphasis on tangible infrastructure such as rural solar mini-grids demonstrates a focus on visible, measurable change. In the field of energy, results can be seen in lit homes. As Burkina Faso advances its decentralized solar strategy, reactions from Western observers have been mixed. Some analysts express concern about governance, transparency, and long-term political stability. Others question whether rapid expansion of rural solar infrastructure can be maintained effectively over time. In certain discussions, achievements in electrification are sometimes viewed through a political lens rather than evaluated solely on technical merit. These concerns often focus on sustainability. Who will maintain the batteries after several years of operation? How will replacement parts be financed? Will tariff systems remain affordable for rural households while covering operational costs? These are legitimate questions, and they deserve practical answers. At the same time, it is important to separate political debate from lived reality. For a village that has waited decades for electricity, the arrival of a functioning mini-solar plant is not a slogan. It is a measurable improvement in daily life. Children studying at night, clinics refrigerating vaccines, and small businesses expanding their hours represent concrete outcomes, not abstract narratives. International financial institutions continue to engage with Burkina Faso on economic programs and development frameworks. That ongoing engagement suggests that cooperation remains possible when fiscal discipline and project transparency are maintained. In energy development, results ultimately speak louder than commentary. The deeper issue is not whether decentralized solar power is ideologically acceptable. The real question is whether it works, if systems are maintained properly, if communities are involved in management, and if financial models are realistic. Mini-grids can operate reliably for decades. In that case, rural electrification becomes less a political symbol and more a practical tool for national development. The experience of Burkina Faso offers broader lessons for other African nations facing similar challenges. Many countries across the continent struggle with the same dilemma. Expanding national grids is slow, expensive, and often unable to keep pace with population growth. Rural communities wait for years while development concentrates in capital cities. Decentralized solar systems present a practical alternative. The first lesson is that distance should not delay progress. By deploying mini-solar plants village by village, governments can bypass the bottleneck of long transmission projects. Electricity reaches people sooner, and economic activity can begin immediately. Development does not have to move in a straight line from the capital outward. It can grow from multiple local centers at once. The second lesson concerns sustainability. Infrastructure alone is not enough. Clear maintenance plans, transparent billing systems, and community involvement are essential. When residents understand how the system works and contribute to its upkeep, projects are more likely to last their full 25-year lifespan. The third lesson is strategic. Energy independence strengthens national resilience. In an era when global fuel markets fluctuate and geopolitical tensions shift alliances, investing in domestic renewable resources reduces vulnerability. For nations with abundant sunlight, solar power is not merely an environmental choice, it is a stability strategy. In this context, Burkina Faso represents part of a broader Pan-African conversation about self-reliance and development. The effort to electrify rural communities reflects a vision aligned with Pan-Africanism and the idea of an Africa new that builds from its own resources. Under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim